go a little bit further. So we can determine that it's a test, and that these ancient accounts have all kind of similar stories. Now, which ancient account, there are a lot of them are written down, some of them are passed on orally. Which one would be most accurate? Which one am I going to invest my deal into? Okay, and for me, I mean, I've reached certain points in my life where I battle tested every different option, but I mean, I recognize some of the value in all the other things, the other observations. They all kind of reinforce each other on the main points, but on the details, which one seems the best to me? Now, I grew up in a very traditional, mainlining Christian type setting, okay? I mean, we're all here in America, in the West. Oh, maybe some of you ain't in America, but for those of us in Western culture, we grew up Christian, right? And so that's kind of our perspective. So what's really the truth? Hard to say, honestly. I can have my own personal convictions and my own opinions, but that's my faith, see? My own scientific observations and my scientific interpretation of fact leads me to what I choose to believe. Some people choose to believe in an evolutionary template, purely. That's their right to do. I mean, people can believe in whatever they want. Some people choose to believe in other things, but no one can really claim that solid footing of we know. Hence the word faith, remind you, okay? Scientists or religious people can't make that claim unless you actually observe the origin of the universe taking place firsthand. You can't scientifically for sure call it a fact and know it. We can only interpret what we see as evidence, okay? All that being said, I struggled a long time. I've had my foundations kicked out from under my little ideas of the way things work on lots of occasions. And so I've eventually cleared the entire shelf. And I wanted to take an honest assessment of, like what's really going on. So I came to that determination that life is not an accident. It's a test. All these accounts of human observation kind of intersect. So I got that far. So which one is the true one? Or the closest to what makes the most sense from my perspective? I find it down if you look at the ancient Hebrew scriptures. Now, that is a part of the Bible, okay? I'm not talking about the whole Bible yet here. I'm just talking about part of it. First 5 books of the Bible. Some guys call it the Pentateuch. Jews call it the Torah, which means the law. And Christians call it the first 5 books in the Bible, okay? That no one really reads that much unless they're going to use it as ammo to shoot down other people sometimes on certain issues, okay? But if you look at that account, it's interesting because it defines in great detail. It's one of the only books that really that fills in all the gaps. Okay, it's like the common thread. All the different systems have their little books, but they're kind of like piecemeal. This deal defines exactly who made us, where, when, why, how. It defines exactly how. And then it lays out the story. It even names the first people. It's a lot of detail. More so than you'd have in some of the other ones. Very interesting account. It lays out the whole struggle, the heart of the struggle, the reason behind it, all these different ways he's communicated things to us through rehearsals and other deals and the law and all these things that are instructions, really, of how to preserve the continuation of the tribe, of standards of righteousness, to kind of get rid of unproductive behavior as far as crimes and things that are not productive to the continuation of the species, and set them aside and move on in a positive forward direction. Now, a lot of people can argue about the details in there, but mind you, the book is also covering the struggles they had in enforcing all those things properly. Not everything written in those books is endorsed. It is also at the same time the history of how those people struggled with that, okay? So not everything in there is endorsed. Some of it's bad stuff, some of it's good stuff. So a lot of people, they get bent out of shape. Oh, there's bad stuff I read in there, chapter and verse, whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, there's kind of just recording what happened. But if you look at that account, it's very interesting to note, a lot of that stuff, especially in the last 25, 30 years, they've been finding a lot of that stuff. A lot of stuff that people chalked up to just be fake. At one time, the existence of certain places, cities, events, like the Exodus, for example. A lot of people have been very critical on that. But if you study the non-traditional route that, there's religions claim that it happened one way, but if you look at the historical account, it's very interesting. They found like chariot wheels on the bottom of the Gulf of Aqaba. So it's just interesting when you look at that. If you want, ask me about it sometime. It's crazy. Some of the stuff they found in there. So it's a very interesting account. All that being said, that is, as far as I can tell, is pretty amazing. Not to mention the other incredible encryptions in the text. And I'm not talking computer Bible code type stuff. I'm talking like the equidistant letter spacing in the text that writes the signature on it, that is also, you can detect whether or not the text was ever corrupted, because every so many letters it spells out a word that repeats itself. And all throughout the first 5 books, there is a signature of the author on those 5 books. And it was also a frame shift, just like a DNA frame shift can be detected. If you shift it one thing off, it's lethal to the whole organism. The same thing would be true with the text. If you would miss one jot or tittle, if a scribe would ever, when he's writing that thing, would miss one jot or tittle in copying the text of the Torah or the first 5 books, the whole thing would be messed up and the code would not be intact anymore. But the deal has kind of proved true over a long period of time. And that is the only part of the Bible really that you can claim has not been corrupted at all in the original language of Hebrew. The rest of it is more argumentative. People, if you're looking at it from a textual criticism point of view, more people argue on that. But the first 5 books, if you're looking for a religious text that has not been raped over time, whoever wrote that thing down originally, that thing has not changed one letter in the original language since it's been written, because you would detect it through a frame shift of the encryption. And it's a little complicated, but it's not really that complicated. I can explain it another time. So that is something that I seriously invested my time in studying because of that. And it's interesting how, like I said before, it intersects all these other accounts. Okay. Now, if you look at the rest of the Hebrew scriptures, you got the Old Testament is what I'm mainly referring to. You're going to find how them first 5 books I just talked about, that's the law. That is the scriptures, the word of God, if you will, as it describes in here. He has a name in here, okay, that it gives him. His name is not God. That's just a descriptor, really. But that is the word of him, the Father, okay? And the rest of the book in the Old Testament is really people's struggles with not keeping his instructions very well. So if you look at the prophets, if you will, in that book, you'll find all the different guys like Ezekiel and Isaiah and Zechariah and all these different guys in the prophets. They're struggling to keep the nation on track with that original set of writings. So now you have more of a history account. And it's a lot less hinging on some of those things. And a lot of people would be very, when your gotcha guys are trying to disprove the scriptures, they're thinking that those books, they can use that as evidence. And really, you've got to recognize that that's not even really claiming to be the Word of God, except the fact that these guys are repeating the law, which is the first 5 books, because they constantly refer back to it as the Lord instructed this, or God instructed this, or whatever label you want to put on them, instructed a certain deal, and we are not keeping it. So these prophets are professing the law, which is those first 5 books. You follow what I'm saying? So those accounts are the first-hand accounts written usually by the prophet themselves of or a witness of how that nation or that tribe struggled with keeping the law properly, okay? And if you look at New Testament, you have an account of how the mechanisms in the first 5 books, the Torah, of how we're supposed to be reconciled, and how it's very interesting. We can get on that. That's a whole 10,000-year discussion right there. But that's the gospel message, the good news. The solution to the problem of all our malfunctions comes through Messiah. And so it's the eyewitness accounts of how that word was basically sent to us in the form of a guy that explained the way stuff really is, and someone who actually performed and lived it all. And then you have the writings of Paul and these other guys, which is commentary on that. So really the original text is of the Scriptures is those 5 books. So if I have to cleave to something religiously, it would be those books. However, I do not play religion. I do religiously believe what I perceive to be the truth in the book, right? But I'm not really that into the playing church thing, because as we'll discuss in other discussions in the future here, that whole church deal can usually be accredited to apostate religious tradition, which is where man intercepts the goodwill of other people in their pursuit of the truth. When people are directed towards the truth and they're trying to go towards something which they perceive to be true, they're trying to pursue a relationship with their Father in heaven who created them, people jump in the way of that and they intercept that for themselves like vampires. And that's where you have man-made religious tradition, which is the ultimate form of tyranny over the minds of men, which is what gives this book a bad name. More on that in the future. Good discussion, guys. Thanks for having a good visit. We'll talk lots more on this in the future. So don't confuse me with a religious guy. I can't stand man-made religious tradition. Just like Messiah couldn't stand it. He fought it to the death. The only times he went to church was to yell at the church and correct them. And what did they do? They killed him for it. Because he was freeing people from the religious tyranny of men. And those men did not like it so much. So they turned him into the cops, and they nailed him to a piece of wood on the outside of town, right on the highway for everyone to look at. Kind of a rough neighborhood.